Wow. So this week's material is really something else.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
we're diving into Gorampa Sonam Sench.
Right.
And it's incredible because his ideas were suppressed for centuries.
Yeah, for a long time.
Like only rediscovered in the early 20th century.
Yeah.
And now he's being studied all over.
Yeah.
Like across different schools of thought.
Absolutely.
That's pretty amazing in itself.
Yeah. I mean, that alone is fascinating from a historical perspective.
Right.
Absolutely.
So,
I think you, with your background in philosophy,
yeah,
you'll find Gorampa's thought really interesting.
I'm excited.
Yeah, because he wasn't just repeating what everyone else said. He was actively challenging the views of his time.
Yeah.
Especially in the Madhyamaka school, which is often called the middle way.
Yeah. And so what we're trying to do in this deep dive
Right.
is to really break down his philosophy.
Right.
And focus on his take on Madhyamaka.
Yeah, his interpretation, how he saw it differently. Yeah.
Especially his understanding of the two truths and this process of negation.
Right.
So we want to see why his ideas caused so much controversy.
Yeah.
Why they were suppressed in the first place.
Yeah, why so dangerous?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also why they still matter to philosophers today.
Right.
They still have something to say.
They do. They do. And it looks like our main source here is that entry on Gorampa from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Yes. That's a really comprehensive one.
Yeah. It's got like his life.
Yeah.
His main ideas.
Right.
The actual arguments he made.
The details, the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
Right. So for those listening along,
yeah,
this deep dive is going to take us through his life.
Right.
And like the intellectual and political world he lived in.
Yeah, the context.
Right. Then we'll get into his Madhyamaka.
Right.
Really dive into those two truths.
Yeah.
His idea of negation.
Yeah.
The tetralemma,
That fourfold analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The role of logic.
His arguments.
Right.
And then finally, the impact his ideas have had.
His influence.
Yeah. Okay. So much to unpack.
Where
do we even begin with this guy?
Well, I think the best place to start is with his life.
Okay.
And the intellectual climate he was in.
Yeah.
So Gorampa was born in eastern Tibet in 1429.
Right.
And his journey into philosophy took him to Nalendra Monastery.
Okay.
Which is a significant place for the Sakya tradition.
Got it.
And that's where he studied with Rangten Sheja Kunrig.
Okay. A big name.
A very important figure.
Yeah.
And even though Rangten passed away and Gorampa's time studying directly with him was cut short.
Oh, wow.
This period was really significant because it's when he began seriously engaging with Madhyamaka thought.
Okay.
So he laid the foundation there.
Right.
He continued his studies with a lot of other teachers throughout central Tibet.
Okay.
And he didn't just become a really skilled philosopher who knew all about Buddhist epistemology and metaphysics.
Right.
He also became a master of tantric practices, particularly the Lamdrai, which is a key esoteric teaching in the Sakya tradition.
Wow. So this is like a serious intellectual
Curation.
Yeah, and spiritual formation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it seems like he didn't just stay in the academic world either.
No, he was very active in monastic life.
Yeah.
He actually founded Thubten Namgyal Ling Monastery.
Okay.
Which focused on both philosophical inquiry and meditation.
Interesting.
And he was also the abbot of Iwam Chodin.
Okay.
Another important monastery in the Ngor subsect of the Sakya school.
Right. So to understand his philosophy, it's really important to consider the politics of 15th century Tibet.
Absolutely. The historical context is crucial.
Yeah. So the Sakya sect,
right,
they'd been really powerful.
Yeah.
The Mongols backing them up.
That's right.
But by Gorampa's time,
their
power was declining.
Declining,
And that led to all sorts of instability.
A lot of factions competing.
Right, different groups.
Yeah.
Vying for power.
Exactly.
And this probably shaped his writings.
It likely did.
Yeah, which are often very polemical.
Yeah, you can see that tension there.
Yeah, because the Sakya tradition was trying to hold on to their influence.
To maintain it.
Yeah.
And maybe even get some of that power back.
Right.
It was a complex time.
It makes sense that philosophical debates get more intense when power is involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whether it's religious or political.
It's all connected.
Right. And his critiques of Tsongkhapa.
Yes.
Who founded the Gelug school.
Right.
They were so controversial.
So controversial.
That the Gelug leadership suppressed his works.
They did.
After they were written.
After they were composed.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, imagine a philosophical perspective being seen as so dangerous.
So powerful.
So disruptive.
So threatening.
That they had to silence him.
It really does show you the power of ideas.
Yeah.
And the intensity of these disagreements.
Within this tradition.
Yeah, within Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah, but the Stanford Encyclopedia entry says his writings were still being shared.
Yeah.
And studied.
They were.
In eastern Tibet.
Right.
Where the Gelugpas didn't have as much control.
Out of their reach.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the early 20th century.
That's right.
That his work was rediscovered. And republished.
Yeah, thanks to Jamyal Rinpoche.
Okay.
And he had permission from the 13th Dalai Lama.
Wow.
It's pretty remarkable.
So after being hidden for centuries, his philosophy is back.
It's back.
And now is being studied in monasteries.
It is.
From all different traditions.
Sakya.
Yeah.
Kagyu.
Wow.
And Nyingma.
That says a lot about how relevant his ideas still are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a sense of the man and his world.
Right.
Now let's get into his actual philosophy.
With the heart of it.
Yeah, his interpretation of Madhyamaka.
Okay.
He considered himself a follower of Nagarjuna.
He did.
Right, the founder of the Middle Way.
Exactly like most Tibetan Buddhist philosophers. Right. Gorampa situated his work within the Madhyamaka tradition, going all the way back to Nagarjuna.
So they agreed on the basic texts.
Yes, the foundational text.
And the ultimate goal.
Of realizing emptiness.
Right.
And overcoming ignorance.
Yeah.
But, and this is important, Gorampa's interpretations differed quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on some key points.
Interesting.
Yeah, he disagreed with other prominent thinkers.
Yeah.
Not just Tsongkhapa and Dolpopa, but also some within his own Sakya tradition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like Shikya Chokden.
So he's part of this tradition.
He is.
But he's also carving out his own space.
Yeah, forging his own path, having those critical dialogues.
So what makes his Madhyamaka different?
So the Stanford Encyclopedia entry points out 4 main things.
Right.
First is his understanding of the 2 truths.
Right, conventional and ultimate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second is how he uses negation.
Okay.
Especially the tetralemma.
Right.
Third is the role of logic and reasoning in enlightenment.
Okay. And fourth are his views on the methods of philosophical argumentation.
Got it.
And to get the full picture of his philosophy, it's helpful to look at his major works.
Yeah.
So there's Distinguishing the View.
Okay.
Where he directly engages with Tsongkhapa and Dolpopa.
Got it.
And sometimes it gets pretty heated.
Right.
Then there's Elucidating the View.
Okay.
Which is his commentary on Candrakirti's Madhyamakavatara.
Right.
And then Synopsis of Madhyamaka.
Okay.
Which is like a big overview of his own positions.
Right.
And his critiques of other Indian and Tibetan Buddhist thinkers.
So even though each of these books has a different focus,
they do.
His core philosophy stays pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's remarkably consistent.
Yeah, which is interesting because the source mentions that some of his contemporaries' views changed over time.
They did.
Yeah, so this suggests that he was really grounded.
Yeah, deeply grounded.
In his insights.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start with the 2 truths.
How did Gorampa understand this difference between conventional truth?
Yeah.
How things seem,
Europeans.
And ultimate truth.
How things really are.
Yeah.
Well, for Gorampa, the key is how the subject apprehends the object.
Okay.
In other words, whether something is conventional truth or ultimate truth depends on how we as observers are engaging with it.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so he says conventional truth is always mediated by concepts.
Okay.
Logic and reasoning.
Okay.
It's how things appear to ordinary beings.
Right.
Who have what he calls ordinarily functioning sense faculties.
Yeah.
Like, think about the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
For most people in Paris
who
can see normally, it's obviously there.
Right.
We can point to it, name it, and we all agree it's physically present.
Yeah.
That's an example of conventional truth for Gorampa.
Okay.
It's a shared reality.
Right.
Based on our typical senses and how our minds work.
So it's like the everyday world? It is.
So we all experience with objects and words and shared ideas.
Yeah, a common framework.
That we pretty much agree on.
We have a consensus.
Yeah, but you said ordinarily functioning faculties.
Right.
And the Stanford Encyclopedia entry talks about someone who's drunk and seeing double.
Right.
Or someone with an eye condition.
Yeah.
Who sees floaters as hairs.
Yeah. Those are interesting examples.
So those perceptions are real for those people.
They are.
But they're not conventional truths.
Exactly. Because their senses aren't functioning in the standard way. Okay, so it's not just any perception or thought.
It has to be based on a shared way of perceiving and thinking.
Right.
It has to be something we can generally agree on.
And Gorampa says that even though conventional truth is based on kind of a shared illusion,
in a way,
from the perspective of ultimate reality, it's still really important.
He says it's absolutely essential because it's how we function in the world.
Yeah.
It's how we use language, how we develop logic.
Yeah.
And even how we begin to understand the Buddhist path.
Right.
We need concepts and logic, at least at the beginning, to even approach the idea of ultimate truth.
So conventional truth, as we understand it, is necessary.
It is.
But ultimately temporary.
Provisional.
Okay, so now, what about ultimate truth?
Yeah, how does he see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so for Gorampa, ultimate truth is how things really are.
Okay.
Independent of all those concepts and conventions that shape our conventional understanding. Right. He's very much in line with the Madhyamaka idea that our ordinary understanding is rooted in ignorance. Okay. A misapprehension of reality.
Right.
And that ignorance is what causes samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
Yeah, so realizing ultimate truth is the key to ending that ignorance. Yeah. And achieving liberation.
Liberation from suffering.
Right. But this is where it gets tricky.
It does.
How do you describe something that's beyond concepts and language?
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
It seems like as soon as you try to define it, you've already failed because you're using concepts.
Exactly.
Gorampa was aware of this problem.
Yeah.
And he makes a distinction between what he calls the ultimate that is taught, ipstan paidondem, which is our conceptual understanding of the ultimate, and the ultimate that is realized, togs paidondem, which is the direct non-conceptual experience that awakened beings have.
So ordinary people like us can grasp the idea,
the concept
of ultimate truth.
Yeah, the taught
through studying and thinking.
Through intellectual inquiry, but awakened beings through meditation have a direct experience that goes beyond concepts. Yeah, it's a big difference.
And this leads Gorampa to an interesting idea about how these two truths are perceived.
Right, by different beings. Yeah. So he says ordinary beings stuck in ignorance, they see conventional truth as if things really exist.
Okay.
They experience the world as inherently real.
Yeah, I can relate.
And they understand the taught ultimate through concepts.
But why?
But once an awakened being realizes ultimate truth, their perception changes completely.
Oh, wow.
The conventional realm doesn't appear real to them anymore.
Okay.
It's not that the Eiffel Tower disappears, but they see it as merely conventional.
Kontradiktion.
Yeah, exactly. It's no longer inherently real.
So the difference is not in the object itself.
It's not.
Right. The Eiffel Tower is still there.
It is.
But in how the person perceives it.
Exactly.
My ordinary mind sees a table as real.
Yeah.
But a Buddha sees it as merely conventionally existent.
That's right.
Without any inherent reality.
Yeah. It's subtle, but very important.
Yeah.
And the Stanford Encyclopedia entry highlights how this is different from Tsongkhapa, who sees the two truths as based on different aspects of the object itself.
Yeah, so Gorampa is really emphasizing the subject.
He is.
Yeah, the person doing the perceiving.
It's all about the cognizing being.
Right, and their level of understanding.
Exactly.
This is central to his idea of the Buddhist path.
It is.
So we start out believing that conventional truth is real.
Yeah, inherently real.
Then through study and meditation.
Right, through practice.
We develop a conceptual understanding.
Of the taught ultimate.
Yeah.
And eventually, through deeper meditation, we directly experience the merely conventional nature of reality.
And access the realized ultimate.
Exactly. It's a process.
It is.
A journey.
And the goal of all this, the source says, is freedom from all conceptual proliferations.
Right. Sprospa Ding Bralba.
Which is a state of non-conceptual awareness.
Yeah.
But Gorampa is careful to say.
He is.
That this isn't just blankness.
Right. It's not emptiness in that sense.
Or unconsciousness.
Not at all.
It's an active state of being.
It's active.
Achieved by getting rid of.
By eliminating our deeply ingrained concepts.
So it's not about shutting down the mind.
No.
But changing how it works.
Transforming it at its core.
And this process involves specific techniques.
It does.
Philosophical and meditative.
Right. Both are important.
Which brings us to Gorampa's understanding of negation.
Yes.
Especially the tetralemma.
That fourfold analysis.
Right.
A powerful tool.
Yeah. I mean, Nagarjuna's use of it is famous.
It is.
Neither A nor not A, nor both nor neither.
A classic.
Right.
It's a classic.
But how does Gorampa use this?
Well, for Gorampa, the tetralemma.
Or Katuku.
Right. Kokuti.
Is a crucial logical tool.
It is.
For analyzing conventional truth.
Right.
With the goal of awakening.
That's the aim.
He draws on Nagarjuna and Aryadeva.
He does.
Who use this analysis to negate the four extremes.
Those fundamental extremes.
Existence.
Right.
Non-existence.
Yep. Both.
Both existence and non-existence.
And neither existence nor non-existence. Right. His approach is unique.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, he says we have to first negate each extreme.
One by one.
Yes. Successively.
Using
logic. And reasoning.
Okay.
And only after we've done that can we realize the negation of all four.
At the same time.
Okay. Through meditation.
So it's 2 steps.
2 steps.
First, the intellectual deconstruction.
Right.
Using logic. And then the meditative realization.
Exactly.
That all those categories are empty. The Stanford Encyclopedia mentions the 5 Madhyamaka reasonings that he uses to refute inherent existence.
Yeah, so those are, can you give me a quick overview?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the 5 reasonings are neither one nor many.
Okay.
The argument of diamond splinters.
Okay.
Refuting arising of either existent or non-existent entities.
Okay.
Refuting the 4 possibilities of arising and the principle of dependent arising.
Okay, so these all point to emptiness.
They do.
Yeah.
The lack of inherent existence.
And they approach it from different angles.
Yes.
Right.
They show that nothing has a self-sufficient existence.
Whether we look at its qualities, its causes, or its effects. So no matter how hard we try, we can't find any real essence.
No ultimate essence.
In anything.
We come up empty.
Right. So he dismantles the idea of inherent existence.
Step by step.
And then he moves on to the other 3 possibilities.
Exactly.
Non-existence.
Yeah.
Both
existence and non-existence.
And neither.
And neither existence nor non-existence.
It's like he's systematically taking apart every way our minds try to grasp reality.
It's a very systematic approach.
Yeah. And he's emphasizing the order.
The sequence. Yeah. He refutes non-existence.
Right.
Based on the fact that he's already refuted inherent existence.
Okay.
He's saying that non-existence only makes sense if we assume existence first.
Right. So each step builds on the one before.
Exactly. It's a progression.
Yeah.
He's showing that these 4 possibilities are the fundamental ways
that we think about reality.
How you conceptualize it.
And by refuting them all,
we're left with nothing to hold on to.
No conceptual foothold.
No foothold.
And the point of all this is not just to be a clever philosopher. It's to prepare for meditation.
Exactly.
So we understand the negations intellectually.
Through logic.
Yeah.
And then we meditate on them to realize the emptiness of all 4 categories. It's a profound shift.
It is.
From conceptual understanding to direct experience.
Yeah. And this is where Gorampa really differs from Tsongkhapa.
This is a key difference.
The Stanford Encyclopedia entry says
it does
that for Gorampa, the goal is to get rid of all conceptual thought.
Completely.
Not just wrong concepts.
All concepts.
That's a big difference.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
So how do their views on negation differ?
Okay, so Gorampa sees the negations in the tetralemma as complete non-affirming negations.
Okay.
Med-degag.
Right.
Each possibility is negated totally.
So nothing is affirmed in its place.
Nothing at all.
The goal is to eradicate all concepts.
All concepts.
Related to existence, non-existence, both or neither.
Yeah, the whole spectrum.
But Tsongkhapa, he often uses double negation.
He does.
And he qualifies his negations.
Right.
Based on the 2 truths. So for him, negating inherent existence doesn't necessarily mean getting rid of all concepts.
Not in the same way.
So Gorampa thinks Tsongkhapa doesn't go far enough.
He thinks it underpervades. It doesn't completely eliminate all extreme views.
And he says the power of the tetralemma is that it goes beyond logic.
It transcends logic.
By negating all the possibilities.
Right.
It shows us the limits of our concepts.
And forces us to abandon them.
It's my ultimate truth.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the goal is to go beyond concepts, what's the point of all this logic?
That's a good question.
Yeah, the tetralemma and all that, what's the point?
Well, Gorampa believes that the logic of the tetralemma shows us that awakening is beyond conceptual thought.
Okay.
Conceptual thought comes from ignorance.
Right.
Our fundamental misapprehension of reality.
So to get rid of ignorance, you have to get rid of all concepts.
All concepts.
He even says that awakened Buddhas have no concepts in their minds.
No conceptual content.
Wow.
It's a bold claim.
It is.
Drawing on Candrakirti.
Right.
He says that Buddhas only appear omniscient and function in the world because of their past karma.
Right. Their compassion, not because they're thinking conceptually.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is.
And Tsongkhapa and the Glugabas criticized it.
They did.
They said that complete absence of thought could be like unconsciousness.
Like being asleep or in a coma.
Exactly.
They were worried it would overpervade. And erase the distinction between awareness and non-awareness.
So how did Gorampa respond to that?
He said that the key difference is the process.
The process of getting there.
Exactly. He says we need logic and reasoning to break down our concepts.
Right.
So the non-conceptual state of awakening isn't just an absence of thought.
It's the result of a deliberate process.
It's the outcome of purification.
Okay.
Both intellectual and meditative.
So logic is like a ladder that we used to climb.
To reach the top.
And then we let go of it.
We don't need it anymore.
This difference in how they understand concepts
also shows up in Gorampa's view on the Prasangika and Svatantrika Madhyamaka sub-schools.
Those two main approaches within Madhyamaka.
In Tibetan Buddhism.
Yes.
Candrakirti's Prasangika approach
was
generally seen as